We have suffered through a lot as Orioles fans this year, so at the very least, it was nice for the home part of the schedule to end like it did on Thursday.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Friday, September 26th, 2025, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we are going to recap the exhilarating Orioles 6-5 comeback and walk-off win over the Tampa Bay Rays to win the series and win the season series over the Rays on Thursday afternoon. I'll get to the 5 things you need to know from that one, including an awesome walk-off home run from Dylan Beavers, another big day from Ryan Mountcastle, one he hasn't had since earlier in the month, and a start from Cade Povich that kind of summed up the just kind of meh nature of his season. Then I'll give my final edition of the Orioles Bullpen Trust Power Rankings of the 2025 season before giving you a couple of Orioles news and notes to finish off the week on the pod. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the FanDuel app today. So the Orioles finished off the home part of their schedule on Thursday afternoon at Oriole Park with a 6-5 victory over the Tampa Bay Rays. They take 2 out of 3 in this series, and they take 7 of 13, winning the season series against Tampa as well. And I mean, that's almost a wrap on this season. There is one series remaining for the Orioles. It is this weekend in the Bronx where they can play some spoiler against the New York Yankees, but either way, that's it for home games. I hope you're able to get to some games. I surely went to my least amount of games since probably 2021, maybe since 2019. This year, I'm a little bit had to do with moving a little further away from the ballpark. Some of it was just the general of this team. I mean, they go 39-42 overall at home. They're 36-42 on the road. So it's not like there's been some kind of huge split between both places. I mean, they did have a lot of walk-off wins there at the end, which was certainly nice to see, but we didn't see a lot of those happen until very recently, but that's your home season. Orioles win at 6-5 on the walk-off. They're now 75-84 on the year with 3 games remaining. And I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from that Thursday afternoon victory. And the first thing you need to know is the kids for the O's had the clutch late home runs to win this one. Coby Mayo kicked it off in the 8th inning, a 2-out, 2-run home run against Rays reliever Kevin Kelly, the sidearmer who had just come into the game. First pitch he throws allows a 2-run homer to Mayo that ties the game at 5 in the bottom of the 8th inning. Mayo getting a sinker kind of down and in and just ripping that ball. That is the sweet spot for his swing. His fastball is down and in, and he just ripped that thing on an absolute laser out to left field. How about Coby Mayo? I mean, with all the struggles he's had, he's still young, and I've talked about it multiple times. He's now posting a 930 OPS in September. It's by far the best month of his big league career. Now, he's had a lot of good luck go that way. Not really the case on this ball. This ball was crushed. He deserved a 2-run homer, and he got a 2-run homer. And that's a good way to end his home season, at least. And it's a great way to end his season no matter what happens in these final 3 games. Again, as I've talked about it, like, there's still going to be some changes Mayo needs to make this offseason, but hopefully this at least gives him some more confidence to finish out the year. And then it was Dylan Beavers who capped it off. First pitch of the 9th inning with Kevin Kelly still in there for the Rays. Got a fastball down the middle, launches it onto the flag court for a walk-off solo homer to give the Orioles a 6-5 win. Hit that ball 107.7 miles per hour off the bat in terms of the exit velocity. Hardest hit ball of Beavers' big league career so far. His first MLB home run and already his second walk-off hit. He's basically, been here for 5+ weeks with the Orioles. It's certainly been a great going for Dylan Beavers as well. Been a great month for Coby Mayo. Great big league career so far for Beavers, an 820 OPS since he was called up into the leadoff spot in back-to-back days with Jackson Holliday out of the Orioles lineup. And I mean, the way he gets on base, he drew another walk in this game as well. He could maybe be a guy there. Like, we will see. I think we want to see a little more time from Jackson in the leadoff spot next season. There's a chance that Holliday is just not a leadoff type hitter long term. Beavers could potentially be a guy who's kind of your perfect leadoff hitter. He gets on base, he puts the ball in play, and he has that pop that he can tap into. I still think Holliday's most likely the leadoff hitter long term. We've seen him get more and more into that walk and on base skills we saw in the minors, and that's what would make him, along with the speed, a good leadoff hitter. But Beavers has the skills too, and that's another nice part about his breakout that's happening early in his big league career. Second thing you need to know from the Orioles' walk-off win on Thursday is that Ryan Mountcastle, the kind of veteran in this lineup right now, provided the offense early for the O's. A line drive opposite field home run in the third inning made this a 3-1 game, got the Orioles on the board. It was the Rays once again just, kind of limiting the workload of their starters. Drew Rasmussen goes just 2 1/3 scoreless innings on 57 pitches in this one. They pulled all their starters super early in this series, although the O's did load the bases with nobody out against Rasmussen in the second and did not score, but that really ran up his pitch count. So he retires the first batter of the third, comes out. Jesse Schultens comes in and ends up just kind of eating 5 1/3 innings, 92 pitches, but does give up that home run to Mountcastle. Just the second home run of September for Mountcastle, who, remember, he came into September red hot. He had like 4 straight multi-hit games. He was awesome. He has a 556 OPS this month, even with the home run in the third and the RBI single he had later in the game. It was his first multi-hit game since September 2nd. I mean, it is going to be such an interesting conversation that we'll certainly get to with kind of the Mountcastle season recap episode. What in the world the Orioles are going to do with Ryan Mountcastle, with him having one more year left before free agency. And it was certainly not a good season for him, although it wasn't a good season for a lot of Orioles this year. Nice to see him get this game. I mean, it's a total possibility that was Ryan Mountcastle's final game at Oriole Park wearing the orange and black. And so for him to go out with a homer and a couple of RBIs, potentially, that was certainly nice to see. Third thing you need to know from the win Thursday is that Adley Rutschman had his first hit since coming off the injured list back on Tuesday. Didn't get the start in this game. Alex Jackson was catching the day game after a night game, but Rutschman, after the Coby Mayo home run, came in to pinch hit for Jackson to try and give the O's the lead in the 8th. And he tripled off the bench. Now, the Orioles were not able to get him home. Dylan Carlson struck out as a pinch hitter to strand Adley at third, but a little 2-out triple, his first hit since August 17th. That was his last game before going on the injured list. And just his second triple of the season. The other one was all the way back on May 11th in Anaheim. That one was a fly ball to left field that Taylor Ward just completely lost in the sun and fell in for an RBI triple. This one was definitely going to be a hit, but it was a single that was played into a triple from a bad diving attempt in right field. So not sure you could say Adley has earned either of the triples he's gotten this year, but it still counts in the stat category. And Adley, the way his year has gone, is certainly looking for any stats that can boost him at all. And it's been funny for Adley, right? Until this year, he's had one single triple every single season of his big league career. Of course, his first major league hit back in May of 2022 was a triple at Oriole Park, and he's had a few more since then. But good to see him get a hit. Hoping, he'll probably, I would think, start 2 of the 3 games at Yankee Stadium this weekend. Maybe catch one, maybe DH one. I'd just like to see him have a nice little offensive game before this season is over. Fourth thing you need to know from the Thursday win for the O's is that Cade Povich was a lot of in his final start of the season. And what a kind of perfect way for Povich to wrap up his season. I mean, you could argue he was a little worse than usual in this start. He goes 5 2/3 innings, 5 runs on 10 hits, 4 Ks, 2 walks, no homers, 99 pitches, and he finishes the season with a 5.21 ERA in what is quote unquote his first full big league season. Although with the ineffectiveness and the injuries he sustained, it's not like he gave the Orioles 30 starts or anything. He was in the big leagues for more time this year than he was last year when he was called up late in the season. But I don't know if I'd call it a step back. Remember, Povich was just amazing in September of last year. There was an argument to be made that if the Orioles got to game 3 of the wild card series against the Royals, that Povich should have gotten that start after they went, with the game 1 and 2 of Corbin Burns and Zach Eflin. And that's just kind of not how his 2025 has gone. He's still 25 years old, still a lot of room to grow, but you could maybe argue that he took a step back this season. Once again, just couldn't avoid the big inning. He was really good in the first 2 innings of this one. Then he gives up 4 hits and 3 runs in the third for the Rays to take the lead. Then, he gets in trouble a little bit, 4th and 5th, gets out of it. And then the 6th, he can't get out of the trouble, gives up an RBI triple. Luckily, the O's throw out the runner, or an RBI double, throw out the trail runner at the plate, so it wasn't more runs against the line of Cade Povich. Curveball was good. I thought he used it a ton. 39% usage on that curveball was by far his number one most used pitch. Previous career high on curveball usage in a game was 35%. Basically, the most he's ever thrown his curveball was in that start Thursday. And a lot of that was the scouting report. The Rays have really struggled against curveballs all season, specifically the hitters that were in their lineup. So that was definitely the plan going in, and he executed it well. Like, there was an AB, I think, in the 2nd inning, I believe, against Everson Pereira. Might have been later in the game, but he just threw 3 straight curveballs. All of them started in the zone and broke down and in below the knees to the righty Pereira. And Pereira swung through all 3 of them. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. And it was the final out for Povich as he walked off the mound. And it was like, that's the things we want to see. He finds something that works and keeps going at it. And again, it's a fairly inexperienced hitter in Pereira, but you love to see that plate appearance there from Cade Povich. And then he just kind of gets away from what he wants to do. He gets erratic. He only walked 2. It's not the worst command start we've seen, but it's been a lot of 4-pitch walks you've seen from Povich this year. He'll just lose it from batter to batter. Again, still room to grow. I don't think there should be any scenario, and I've talked about this, where Povich goes into spring training penciled into the Orioles rotation. There should be nothing like that. He should be thought of as good rotation depth going into next year, and then you turn to him only if you need him. I still think there is certainly a really solid major league starter in there. We've seen flashes of it for Povich. There's got to be changes made this offseason. I just don't know what they are. Probably get deeper into those on his season review episode, but the biggest change is just he needs to be more consistent. That'll come with time and more big league innings and more of a veteran player. It comes for a lot of guys. Maybe that's just what Povich needs, is more time. But just if he has more consistency, he's a guy who you can trust in your rotation. Right now, he's just not for a good team, at least at this moment. And the 5th and final thing you need to know from the Orioles' 6-5 walk-off win over the Rays on Thursday afternoon in their final home game of 2025 is that the Orioles bullpen was able to keep them in it and give them the chance to come back. Yarmil Geraldo did come in for Povich and finish off that 6th inning. He did allow a couple of hits and an inherited runner to score, but then got out of the inning. Cade Stroud was great again with a 1-2-3 7th. Rico Garcia loads the bases with nobody out and then tight ropes out and still puts up a 0. And then Keegan Aiken got the 9th in a 5-5 game. It wasn't super pretty, but he retired all 3 batters he faced to keep it at 5. He's clearly the Orioles' highest leverage guy for the rest of the year, but nice job by the bullpen. 3 1/3 innings of no earned runs. And hey, the Orioles offense generally has not had much of a pulse here in September, but when you have a bullpen pitching like that, if you do have an offense with a pulse, which they actually showed late in Thursday's game, the bullpen keeping it at 5 runs can give you a chance to come back, and that is exactly what happened for the Orioles in the comeback walk-off win to beat the Rays and finish off their home slate here this season. But speaking of that bullpen, I honestly think it's been better than expected, especially with all the guys they traded away from it and that have gotten injured in the past couple of months. So for the final time in 2025, the Orioles bullpen trust power rankings. Those are coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Rugiet. Now, guys, you've probably heard of things like Viagra or Cialis, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. That's exactly where Rugiet Go Long comes in. It's just really not another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula. And the process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. So ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to rugiet.com and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com. That's Rugiet. Promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Make sure to use our code so they know that we sent you. All right, there's 3 games left in the regular season for the Orioles. It's been quite a disappointing one. And for the final time in 2025, it's the Orioles Bullpen Trust Power Rankings. Now, if you're not familiar with the segment, I take all the current members of the Orioles bullpen. There are 8 of them in there at the moment on the active roster, and I split them into 3 categories: trust, maybe trust, and don't trust. Trust is, hey, if they come in a high leverage spot, I feel good like they're going to get out of it. Maybe trust, you can be there for a lot of reasons. Maybe you just fell out of trust. Maybe you're a new guy. Maybe you're good in low leverage, but not so good in high leverage. And then don't trust is pretty self-explanatory. 8 relievers in the pen. Let's start with trust. I've got 3 of them in there. And the first one is Dietrich Enns. The stats I'm going to read out are since September 12th. So over the last 2 weeks for the Orioles bullpen, September 12th is also the last time I did an edition of the bullpen trust power ranking. So over the last 2 weeks, Enns 5 appearances, 8 1/3 innings for the Orioles, 3 runs on 8 hits allowed, 10 strikeouts, which is 2 walks. He's allowed a homer, and he does have a save. He's by far been the most used Orioles reliever. He's still struggling a little bit to get lefties out, but he's dominating right-handed hitters as kind of a reverse splits guy. He's thrown 3 more innings basically than anyone else, or at least 2+ more innings than anyone else at this point. And Tony Mansolino clearly trusts him the most out there. He's getting a ton of whiffs on that four-seam fastball lately. It's sitting at 95. I think he's a really intriguing piece for this bullpen, potentially going into next year, even with him being a 34-year-old journeyman. Next guy in trust is Rico Garcia. 6 appearances since the last time, 6 1/3 innings, 8 hits, 1 run, 2 Ks, 3 walks, and a home run. Excuse me. I don't think I actually added Rico Garcia's latest outing to this one. So we're going 7 appearances, 6 1/3, 10 hits, 1 run, 4 Ks, and 3 walks for Mr. Garcia with 1 home run allowed. Couple of shaky outings in a row, but he's kind of been bend, don't break. I mean, look at Thursday. Bases loaded, no outs, a jam he put himself into, and then he goes strikeout, line out to get out of the inning and put up a 0. We've seen him get out of other people's jams. Lately, we've seen him get out of his own jams. So I thought a little bit about moving him down, but he's still putting up the 0s most of the time, and the stuff looks just fantastic. So you know what? He can have it. And I mean, the changeup and the slider both have a 45% swing and miss rate in the month of September. That is absurd. He's now throwing the changeup more than he ever has because that pitch has looked so good. I like what the Orioles have done with Garcia second time around. Another guy who I wouldn't be surprised if he's in this bullpen to begin next year. And the final guy in the trust category is Cade Stroud. 5 appearances over the last 2 weeks, 4 2/3 innings, 2 runs, 2 hits, 9 strikeouts to 1 walk. And that is the big difference for Stroud. He's getting these high leverage chances, and he's finally missing some bats. He had a good ERA for a while, but he wasn't really striking guys out. Now 9 Ks in his last 5 appearances to 1 walk. That is what you love to see. The command's been better, and he is missing bats. Striking out the side in the 9th against the Yankees over the weekend was impressive. He had 2 strikeouts in his 1-2-3 inning on Thursday. Stuff looked really good in that one. The sweeper looked great. He threw that a couple of times. And I mean, even when he wasn't getting the strikeouts, like he's still running a 30% hard hit rate and a 1.5% barrel rate against him. Those are absurd numbers. But now he's also getting almost a 50% whiff rate against his cutter, which has always been, like, up through the minors, his bread and butter pitch. And it's really, really working at the major league level now. Stroud's a guy with options, so there's no guarantee he's on the opening day roster next year. But man, is he going to be potentially an important reliever for this team next year. Then we move into maybe trust. The first one in maybe trust is Keegan Aikens. 6 outings, 5 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, 5 Ks, a walk, 2 homers, and 3 saves. It's been a roller coaster over the past 2 weeks. He had those 3 saves in a row in 4 days. And I was like, I think I'm putting Keegan Aikens back in trust the next time we do this. He's actually succeeding in high leverage. Although it wasn't looking super pretty at times, he was getting the job done. Then we had that disaster 10th inning against the Yankees, and he went right back down into maybe trust. Even though he did throw a scoreless top of the 9th on Thursday to keep the game tied, didn't necessarily look dominant. I know we have 3 games remaining. I'm just begging Tony Mansolino to use anyone else in the high leverage spots. You got 3 games left. Like, I know Mansolino said Thursday they're trying to win this weekend, and that's great. I want the Orioles to play spoiler and potentially stop the Yankees from winning the AL East at Yankee Stadium this weekend. That would be awesome. But you can still do that with a guy like Cade Stroud in the 9th inning instead of Keegan Aikens and actually miss some bats here. Yarmil Geraldo is also in maybe trust. 5 appearances, 4 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 7 Ks, and 3 walks. Again, just not the highest leverage spots, but he's looked pretty good. He's got a 67% whiff rate on his changeup this month, giving up a lot of soft contact. Just got to find a little more command, a little more consistency, and there's at least an optionable piece for next year's bullpen. Yennier Cano is also in maybe trust for me. 4 appearances, 4 and a third innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 Ks, and 1 walk. Had that one blown save in Toronto in the last 2 weeks, but otherwise he's been fine. Hitters are batting just over 100 with a 48% swing and miss rate on his new splitter this month. I don't think anyone thinks this, that he's ever going to be the same pitcher he was in that All-Star 2023 season. That's just not the Yennier Cano we're going to see again at this point. But some of the stuff is still there. He's willing to make adjustments. He still has options for next year. I still do believe this is a guy who's going to help the Orioles bullpen in 2026. To what role? TBD. I don't think it's going to be like an 8th inning guy anymore, but he's still a useful reliever to this point. Also in maybe trust is the lefty Jose Castillo, who's been with the O's for a couple of weeks now. 4 appearances, 5 and a third innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 6 Ks, 2 walks, and a homer for him. Orioles have kind of brought his 4-seam fastball back. He had it early in his career, then he went to the sinker. Now it's kind of back to the 4-seamer with the Orioles. He's been fine. They've been using him a good amount just to make sure they get a good look at him because, after they claimed him on waivers, they only have a couple of weeks with him before the season ends, and he's a good candidate to probably get DFA'd and taken off the 40-man at some point this offseason as well. But we'll see. I think the stuff has looked solid. The results have been solid. We'll see if he can sneak his way through the offseason. And then guess what? I don't have anybody in don't trust. Because the 5th and final guy in maybe trust and the 8th and final reliever to talk about is Colin Selby. Now, he's made just 1 appearance. It was a 1-2-3 scoreless inning. No strikeouts, no walks. It's only been that 1 appearance since he missed 2 months with a hamstring injury. It was activated off the IL earlier this week. But in that inning earlier this week against the Rays, he looked like the usual Selby. Didn't get any strikeouts, but both those breaking balls were looking really, really good. We'll see him pitch at least 1 more time, potentially 2 more times in New York this weekend. And then another guy who, will certainly be on the roster bubble as we move through the offseason. But the Orioles, they clearly like his stuff a lot. That's why they've kept him around for as long as they have since bringing him in last year, I should say. So we'll see what the future holds for Selby. I still like this stuff a lot. Just got to stay on the field and stay a little more consistent. And there's a good bullpen arm in there potentially for the Orioles. But that is the final edition in 2025 of the Orioles Bullpen Trust Power Rankings. Let me know here in the YouTube comments what I got right, what I got wrong in terms of ranking out those relievers. One more segment to get to this week, and we are going to talk about some roster moves, some injury news and notes here on a Friday show coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And FanDuel is great because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it really is the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So to finish things off here on a Friday episode, we've got some Orioles news and notes to get to. Let's start with the injury stuff, where we got some further updates on Thursday. As I did mention during the episode on Thursday, Samuel Basallo's x-rays were negative on his right wrist. He is day-to-day. Tony Mansolino said if this were like a playoff atmosphere, he probably would have played Thursday, but wanted to keep him down for 1 day. Basallo said he feels a lot better. The Orioles expect him to be in the lineup. He may not play all 3 games. Maybe they'll give him 1 more day off this weekend, but expect him to probably catch once, at least DH once in Yankee Stadium. Avoiding disaster, which what looked like a broken hand or a broken wrist on that just weird hit by pitch and even weirder end of that game between Pete Fairbanks and the Orioles on Wednesday night. But luckily, Basallo seems to be all good to go. That is the best news of the day. Jackson Holliday also seems to maybe be okay. He was out of the lineup for the 2nd straight day with a knee issue. He did get an MRI on the knee on Thursday. The Orioles said before the game they were awaiting those results. So we will see on Jackson's knee. They're still considering him day-to-day. Mansolino didn't seem super, bent out of shape about it, super concerned about it. I guess we'll kind of see what the MRI says. I wouldn't be surprised if Holliday is out of the lineup again on Friday night. Just let's hope we see Westberg and Jeremiah Jackson and not Jorge Mateo in that infield if Holliday is out. Albert Suarez, another update there. He talked to the media on Thursday. Still has too much swelling in his elbow to get another MRI done. So they're kind of waiting for the inflammation to go down to get the answer. He is out for the season. Again, it's certainly a Tommy John worry at this point for Suarez, but we don't have that true information. He seems pretty zen about it. He's just kind of waiting for the results. But yeah, his season is obviously over. And the Orioles did make a roster move. Carson Ragsdale is back. They claimed him off waivers from the Braves on Thursday. Remember Ragsdale, who was initially claimed off waivers by the Orioles from the Giants back in August, put him in AAA, relief for a while, worked him back up to a starter, pitched pretty well, came up a couple of weekends ago in Toronto, made his major league debut for the Orioles in mop-up duty, in long relief. He kind of had to wear one. He allowed 8 runs in 3 innings. The Orioles then optioned him back down to AAA, but then they claimed Jose Castillo. They needed room, so they actually DFA'd Ragsdale. He was claimed by the Braves, went to AAA with the Braves, had 1 bad relief outing. Then the Braves' AAA season ended. The Braves needed a 40-man roster spot, I think, for Charlie Morton, who they claimed off waivers from the Tigers and are going to start in Sunday's game to give him one kind of final swan song, and then he's probably going to retire, I would think, after the season. So Ragsdale back on waivers, and the Orioles claimed him right back up. Again, there's no more minor league season, so he'll just be in the org for a little bit, and we'll see what they want to do from him in the offseason. Dom Hamill was DFA'd because the Orioles 40-man was full to make room for Ragsdale. Hamill, who was just claimed a right-handed pitcher off waivers from the Mets last week and was optioned to AAA, but never actually got into a game for Norfolk. We'll see if he can clear waivers, hopefully, and stay in the organization for the O's. But that will do it for today's episode, and that will do it for this week. This is the final preview of games being played for the Orioles in the 2025 season here on this podcast. One final series of the year. It is Orioles at Yankees this weekend to finish off the regular season. Orioles can win as many as 78 and as little as 75 games this year. Now, this is not fully updated because I'm recording right now. It's around 8:15 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday night. The Blue Jays and the Yankees are both in action at the moment. They are tied atop the AL East right now. White Sox are leading the Yankees 3-1, and it's 0-0 Red Sox and Blue Jays. Either way, one team's going to be up by a game or they're still going to be tied. These games this weekend in the Bronx are going to matter severely for the AL East. It would certainly be nice to see the Orioles kind of come off the deck, play spoiler, and maybe go in there and win 2 out of 3 and knock the Yankees off their chances from winning the division. Because if they win the division, they're going to get the bye. You could potentially send the Yankees to, even though they play at home, to a best of 3 wild card series and make it a lot tougher for the Yankees to try and win the World Series this year. And that would be at least a good thing the Orioles would do at the end of this season. And in that series, it starts tonight, 7:05 on MASN. The final 2025 start of Trevor Rogers. He just dominated the Yankees 6 scoreless last weekend. We'll see if he can do it again in the Mickey Mouse Stadium they call Yankee Stadium. And he'll go up against Will Warren, the 26-year-old righty, who the Orioles got for only 1 run in 5 1/3 innings in his last start, but it was just 1 earned run. There were some unearned runs. He looked a little shaky. I think the O's could certainly get to him tonight. Then it's a couple of day games to finish off the year. Saturday is at 1:05 on MASN. Tomoyuki Sugano makes potentially his last Orioles start, a chance at his last start in the major leagues, and he'll go up against the rookie right-hander. Again, that is Cam Schlittler. Ben and Kevin, remember Cam Schlittler is that one, who was 5 1/3 1 run against the Orioles last Sunday. And then to finish off the series and for the Orioles finish off the season, 3:05 p.m. Eastern, Sunday on MASN. Again, every single game across baseball starts at 3:05 on Sunday. They've been doing that for the past couple of years on the last day of the season. I really like it. You know, when you have playoff races to be decided, every single game starting and generally ending around the same time is definitely a cool thing that Major League Baseball does. Kyle Bradish, it's been awesome. 2.25 ERA and 5 starts coming off Tommy John. He will make 1 more before his season is over. That'll come on Sunday. And he will go up against the 27-year-old righty Luis Gil, who has come back from injury and has a 3.29 ERA in 10 starts for the Yankees. Luis Gil, who was pitching in, I think, his 4th different big league season, somehow was still allowed to win AL Rookie of the Year over Colton Cowser last year. But the Orioles did crush him a couple of times last year. Maybe they can crush him again and hopefully crush the Yankees' dreams of winning the AL East. And then I will be back on Monday for my final games recap of the 2025 season, getting you everything you need to know from those 3 games between the O's and the Yankees, and a little thoughts about the playoff races and chases as well. But that does not mean the podcast is done just because the Orioles season is done. We're still going 5 days a week through November. And I've already got a full schedule laid out for basically all of October. It is going to be a really fun month on the show. Even though the Orioles aren't playing October baseball, this is the most important offseason in a while for this team. We're going to break down everything. So next week, Monday, Yankee series recap to finish off the season. Tuesday, you got your Orioles fan guide to the 2025 postseason. Wednesday, kind of a general Orioles offseason preview, including, whatever Mike Elias says at his end of season press conference early next week. Thursday, we're going to talk about some candidates for the Orioles managerial job. And Friday, we're also going to talk about what has really happened with interim managers in the past, the ones that have worked out, the ones that have not, as we start to consider, would the Orioles potentially think about giving Tony Mansolino this job full time? So that's coming up again Monday and all next week on the podcast. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.